today I'm going to be demonstrating the functionality of this really beautiful Ensoniq ASR-88 Advanced Sampling Recorder keyboard. So I'm not going to go over all the features of this keyboard. There are a lot. That's what these manuals are for. This is a really incredible, full-featured music production workstation. But what I am going to show you today is that all of the keys are functional. All of the buttons for navigating and inputting data are functional. And also that the machine boots up as expected. So if you have any questions about the functionality or the condition of this keyboard, of course you can reach out to me. Also, detailed pictures of the keyboard will be available in the description of the sale. And I'm having a little bit of trouble fitting all of this in the frame because this is an 88 key, full-sized keyboard. Of course, velocity sensitive, but also with aftertouch. So it's a pretty big keyboard, would make a great MIDI controller in addition to its excellent functionality as an advanced sampling recorder. So next thing I'm going to do here is boot up the machine using this 2.5-inch floppy disk. So I'll just insert that in and turn the machine on. So it'll take a minute to boot up. Hopefully what you can see is that the screen is in excellent condition. There are no dead pixels. Okay, the operating system has loaded. Of course, being a sampling keyboard, it doesn't come with sounds of its own. You need to import samples and sounds, which you can then manipulate with various envelopes, filters, LFOs, for example. And so on the floppy disk, there are some instruments that I can load in now. One of these things is called a tutorial bank. This is basically tells the machine to load up a series of instruments that are on the disk. So if I hit enter here, it will load in 6 instruments into instrument slots 1 through 6. So the ASR is a very powerful music production workstation because you can load up to 8 different instruments into these slots. It also has an extremely powerful sequencer. All right, so all 6 of those instruments from that bank have loaded in. I'm also going to load in the tutorial sequence. There we go. So I'll hit enter here and it will import the sequence data. All right, so the instruments and the sequences have loaded. What I'm going to do now is demonstrate that the keyboard itself is functional, so that each of the keys works as expected. So first thing I'm going to do is use this clav instrument to just walk up all 88 of the keys to show you that they all work. So that's all 88 keys. I'll also use this nice Oberheim sample to demonstrate the functionality of the mod wheel and pitch bend. So you can hear that the mod wheel is adding vibrato. And the pitch bend. Both of those work smooth all the way through their range as expected. Also use this patch to demonstrate the aftertouch capabilities of this keyboard. So this patch, when you give a little bit of extra pressure to the keys, is designated to open up the filter. So the aftertouch on this keyboard is a really, really nice feature. I'm going to just copy this instrument to fill in these other two instrument slots here for a sec. So what I'm going to do next is go through each of the sliders and the other buttons here to show you that they all work as expected. So the main volume slider here. Smooth. So all of these buttons are really important for accessing different parts of the menus in order to access the full functionality of this keyboard. And all of these buttons work great. This is a data entry slider, so it helps you to navigate through menus or to enter values, as shown here. I've already demonstrated the functionality of the yes enter key, but I'll also show you that the cancel no works by deleting one of these instruments. So that works great. Over on this side are some audio tracks buttons. So these are involved with importing your own sounds and samples into the keyboard for manipulation. There's also a sample source select button here. An effects select. So one of the great features of this keyboard is its internal effects processor. There are lots and lots of different effects, too many to go over right now, but this button works great as well. And over here, these three buttons are for the sequencer. So I've already loaded a sequence into the machine, and it will access the instruments that were loaded in that bank. And let's have a listen to that great sound. That is pure 90s gold. So the next thing I want to do is show that we can boot up from the SCSI zip drive. So I think a standard feature on the ASR-88 was the inclusion of a SCSI drive for connectivity to peripherals. I opted to get this SCSI zip drive because the zip disks held a lot more information than the floppy drives and were a lot faster. So I will demonstrate that we can boot up from this drive now, inserting this disk in and then turning the machine on. So you can see that the operating system loaded up a lot faster from the SCSI drive. So if you do end up purchasing this machine, it's a lot faster to boot and load instruments from the SCSI as opposed to the floppy drive, and I would recommend that route. So of course the SCSI drive would come with this keyboard. In addition, with that disk, there is another zip disk that has sounds loaded onto it, plus 3 additional empty zip disks that you can put your own sounds on. So let's load up one of the sounds from this zip disk. So there's a directory called sounds on here. If we enter into that, load up instruments, there's quite a few instruments on here that I collected from various sources. Here we have an 808-909 CR-78. There's a monophonic Bob lead, which will load in here. So a whole bunch of other instruments, some really great stuff to get you started making music on this ASR-88. So the Bob lead has a very nice aftertouch feature, which I'll show you here. I do want to point out just a couple of cosmetic, I suppose, deficiencies that in no way affect its functionality. Over on this side, up at the top, there are a few scuffs. This is where I used to have my SCSI CD-ROM drive that is no longer functional, unfortunately, but that's where those scuffs are from. Again, they're just surface. There is no other issue there. The other thing I wanted to point out is that this bolt here is loose, and I don't seem to be able to tighten it. Again, this does not seem to affect the functionality of the keyboard at all. Detailed pictures of all the surfaces of the keyboard, side, bottom, etc., will be available in the listing for this keyboard. So thank you for joining me as I demonstrated this really well taken care of, really beautiful Ensoniq ASR-88 advanced sampling recorder keyboard.